Hi, I'm Ricardo and welcome to Water Film Photography. So after checking and looking, let's say that you decide that it's time for you to buy an SLR camera. So what are the choices that you have? Basically you have camera shop. You know, there are quite a few shops around that you can buy old vintage cameras. You can try to buy it online from eBay or something similar to that in your area. Or the other option is to buy from a flea market, a thrift shop, or maybe even from some local ads in a classified website, or even from Facebook, on the Facebook market. So let's try to see what are the pros and cons of each one, and let's buy a camera. When you buy the camera from a camera shop, you have a few advantages, which is most likely those cameras are going to be tested and they are going to be approved. So they are working cameras. You don't have much to worry about when you buy from the shop. Some shops might even give you a warranty, anything from 1 to 3 months, normally what they do. The other advantage is that you can always go to the shop and check the camera and make sure that the description of the camera is actually what the camera is by yourself. The downside is the price. The price for sure is going to be higher than any other option you might have. That's simply because those shops, they have personnel to cover, they have expenses, everything that goes on a normal shop, they have to cover for that. And they're gonna be putting the cost of all of that on the price of your camera. The other way that you can buy a camera is buying online from eBay or something similar to that. The advantage of buying online is that you can find pretty cheap cameras, and they are really cheap. The problem with that is that you have to really trust the seller and trust that all the information that he's putting about the camera or whatever equipment you're buying is actually accurate and it's true. Once again, you really have to believe the seller. Sure, some websites are a bit more trustworthy than others, but there is always that little bug that is it really okay? Is it really what it is on the ad? So there is that side that it's quite, at least for me, a little annoying. The other way of buying a camera is from a flea market, a booth sale, thrift shop, maybe from a classified ad, or even from the Facebook marketplace. The advantage of buying cameras that way is that you can get like some pretty good deals. Just like on the eBay thing, you can get really cheap cameras out of it. Very often the person selling these cameras, especially the cheaper ones, they have no idea on the condition of the camera. They don't know if the camera is working. They can barely tell you the model of the camera and things like that. Generally, those are people that found the camera on their storage place or their wardrobe, or they got the camera from the grandfather, and things like that. So you need to know how to check on these cameras to make sure that they are working, they are worth it, and that you should actually pay what they're asking for. Thinking of that, why don't we go and buy a camera? Let's see what happens. So a couple of days ago I was looking in Facebook and I found this SLR. Is a Fujica, is an M42 lens bayonet. And I found it interesting because they're asking 40 euros and it comes with a couple of different lenses and stuff. So let's go and check that out and see if we can actually buy that camera, if it's worth it. Fingers crossed, we might have a new camera today. finally is a beautiful day in Helsinki. It's been a while. So here we are. I'm gonna send him a text message and I don't know if I'm gonna go up or if he's gonna come down, but yeah, let's go and check it out, the camera. I got the camera. The camera was actually in pretty good shape. Overall, it was pretty good. There it is. Here's the camera. It seems to be in good order. But what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna go back home and we're gonna go through a deeper check on this camera, and I'm gonna show you everything that I checked on this camera before I decided that it was worth it or not. So I'm finally back home, and now we can go through all the check-ins that I did to this camera before I decided if it was worth it or not to buy it. I just would like to remind you that these check-ins, they are pretty useful independent if you're buying the camera or if you found the camera on, your storage, you got the camera as a present from someone and you don't know if it is working or not. Here's the camera. Alright, it's the Fujica. So the first thing that I obviously do when I'm purchasing a camera like that is to look the overall condition of the camera. In this case, you can see that the camera is in pretty good shape. It doesn't look to have any sort of big issue or anything. It seems to be in pretty decent shape, and yeah, so that's the first thing that I check when I'm purchasing the camera. Although it's good to remember, cosmetic flaws most of the time they don't affect the image. So that's pretty much like price point checkings, just to literally to find out if what he's asking is what it worth or not. After checking the overall condition of the camera, the other thing that I do is to check the condition of the lens. In this situation, we actually got 3 different lenses with this camera. So I'm gonna use the 135 to actually show the usual check-ins. The first thing to check is the glass. Okay, so the glass here is good to check that it's not scratched. This lens seems to be pretty solid on both ends. Okay, the inside also seems to be pretty decent. Let me see if I can get more light there. It's gonna be hard, but we try it. But no, there isn't any kind of scratch or significant scratch on the lens. The other thing that I check on the lens is that, is it dusty, and how dusty it is? Are the dust on the outside of the lens or the inside? Remember that old lenses, it's very usual to have some sort of dust, so don't worry too much about that. That's a normal thing. Just make sure that whatever you have in there, even light scratches, they are not, they don't compromise the image quality if they are light scratches. So just make sure that they are superficial and that might not interfere or screw up the image. After checking that, the second thing that I check on the lens is the focusing ring. How hard it is to actually turn the focus. If you check on this lens here, it's turning fairly well. It's not a big problem, seems to be okay, seems to be fine. Okay, so you can see from here, I'm gonna hold it again. Check that out, it's going pretty easily. I'm not applying any force to it. It's nice and pleasant. So that is also thumbs up for this lens in here. Then the next thing that I check in the lens is the aperture blades. The aperture, it's the ring down there. So right now this lens is wide open. So I start closing to make sure that everything is working just fine. And as you can see, it seems to be working just fine. Another thing to look at it in the lens is that if the blades are free of oil, and it's gonna be hard to show that in here, but no, in this lens there is, at least from what I see, there is no oil on the blades, which is also a good sign. The last thing to see on the lens, it's probably it's a bit of a controversial, let's say. Some people say it's savable, some people say it's not. I prefer to keep away from lenses that might have some fungus on it. They can be a bit tricky, they can be, you know, sometimes you pay some money for that and you might not be able to save it. So if you're getting a good deal on the camera body and you think you can get away with some fungus on the lens, then it's fine. Generally, that's me. I try to avoid as much as I can. Gladly, neither of these three lenses here have any sign of fungus, so again, thumbs up, seems to be all good to go. Now let's check it out on the camera body itself. So one thing that I always check on the camera, it's the shutter speed. How is the shutter speed working? So the way that I do that is that I open the back of the camera and I change the speeds. I start normally with from the lower to the higher speed. Okay, so I always start with the bulb mode. So let's see how that is working out. Yeah, seems to be okay. Then I change for the 1 second speed. So let's check it in here. Let me focus. Let me cock. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, seems okay. Maybe a little slower than it should, but... And 1/1000. Seems to be pretty accurate. The other thing that I like to check in these cameras, which you guys might have seen already because the camera has been in front of you, is the mirror. What is the condition of the mirror? So as you can see, the mirror seems to be pretty cool. And yeah, it's in good order. Also check, we put the lens on, otherwise it can be a bit hard, but also it's good to check the viewfinder and how well it's and how clear you can actually see through the lens. The focus distance of this lens seems to be pretty far. Nevertheless, the lens is working just fine. The viewfinder is gonna be hard to show it in here, but it's bright and pretty clean, so I'm quite happy with that. It doesn't seem to be of any problem. And yeah, so those are the basic things that I check on the camera that I believe is important. There are a couple of other things, and I can show the example on this camera that I already noticed that is actually not very good, but I can live with that because that's an easy, DIY easy fix. Unfortunately, this camera has one small problem that I have noticed even from the ads, from the pictures. The light seals here and here seem to be worn out. That means that if I load the film right now and take the pictures, I'm gonna have some light leaks. That's not too much of a problem because you can fix it pretty easily with the phone. I happen to have bought a bit of phone a while ago to fix another camera. So these are the phone that are missing there. Okay? So you can buy this cheap from eBay and some Amazon or whatever. It has the adhesive on the back, which is pretty simple to install. And you just need to clean up the rest of the old phone from here. So you might need some isopropanol or some sort of cleaning solution to take it out, and you can fix that pretty easily. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing with this camera as soon as I have the chance. The other thing on this camera that I have no idea if it's working or not, probably I'm gonna have to test it with a film, it's the light meter. Gladly, like I mentioned earlier, the light meter is not exactly the biggest problem, it's not of a concern. If it's working, good. If it's not working, we use the mobile phone, the light meter, Sunny 16, whatever you choose. But it's not of big concern. So basically, those are the things that I check when I'm buying the camera. And I have to say that overall, so far, I'm pretty happy with this camera. What we're gonna do is that I'm going to fix the light seal from this camera, and as soon as I have it done, let's load a roll of film and test the camera. That's the best way to make sure that everything is fine. I can't wait to put it to the test. Once again, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep shooting film. See you next time. Bye!